Hello, everybody. You have made it once again to another episode of Pickup Lines, the talk show in a car. And it's not every day that we have royalty, much less Fiesta royalty, 2 weeks away from Fiesta. But somehow I have managed to snag Rey Feo LXXI for just a few minutes. Fabian Castillo Sr., it's an honor to have you, sir.
Ernest, an honor to be here with you.
Congratulations. I've never been Rey Feo, but I've been on a couple of courts, and I know what 2 weeks before Fiesta feels like. And so I wonder how you're holding up and how you're feeling right now.
Well, your schedule starts piling up like it's going to be, maybe you have like 5 hours out of the day, and now it turns out being like every 15 minutes you're doing something,
Right.
And as soon as we get to Fiesta, it's going to be worse.
You're right. I'm not gonna deny that. But it's such an exhilarating ride. It's probably the ultimate way to celebrate Fiesta. I wonder how often you've gone back to that day. I've seen the video of when you signed the contract, because he has to sign a contract,
Yes.
right? You're liable for raising a certain amount of money. That day when you did that, your wife was there. I wonder how often you go back to that day and think about what you were thinking then as compared to what you're thinking right now.
Funny to say, Ernie, because, we have a couple of weeks before everything starts, right? And so I think it was the day before yesterday, I started looking through some of our recaps, and
Yeah.
the one that I really went to, and I said, that's the day it started.
Yeah.
And it's been a whole year. It's literally takes about 365 days, as
Right.
you well know. You
Sure.
were in a few courts.
Yeah.
But, when you get to this point here, it's already time to where, we've done the best we can for fundraising. And like I tell my court, our time that we're going to have once we check into the room is going to be about my court.
Right.
They cater to me for almost 300 days or plus, over 300 days plus.
Right.
I'm going to cater now to my court to show them appreciation of what they have done for me and for the community, right?
Yeah, yeah. No, and I think that's a similar thread among other kings where, like you said, the Fiesta part, the 11 days is exhilarating, but that's what you really enjoy, all the work that you've put in these last, many, many months and everything.
Yes.
I got to grab the sticker because it's flapping up here, but he did. Look at this.
did that
In the middle of all of this,
today.
he saved 3 lives, right? Donating blood.
That's right.
So in the middle of all this, he's saving lives. I want to say this to you respectfully, because I don't know that everybody knows your story, but in the most respectful way I can say this. Statistically speaking, you probably should never have been Rey Feo, correct?
Absolutely. I would have never thought, Ernie, in my life that I would be Rey Feo.
I want to go back to where it started. You grew up on the West Side, and I mean, I think to be blunt and candid, it wasn't always a fantasy childhood for you.
Absolutely not. I grew up 2 blocks away from St. Agnes, which is on Reese and
Right.
Sabinas, and it was single parent. We lived with my grandmother in a little casita in the back. Matter of fact, I went to one of the schools by there, and I took my court members to see where we used to live. The house is not, the little casita's not there. My grandmother's house is still there, but there's what back there in the back is a pad, a concrete pad with a curb on it, and that used to be inside the house on the side, and that's where we showered. And it was cold.
You showered on a concrete slab?
On a concrete slab. Everybody showers, not everybody, but it's tough. But
Not with a fancy shower head
not
either, or
with a
anything like
fancy
that.
shower head at all. And there was like showers real quick because hot water was not.
Well, there's 5 kids, right?
5 kids.
5
Well,
kids.
let me back up. We're a family of 5 kids,
Right.
okay? But my brother and my older brother, which is Ray, we're like about 18 months apart.
Okay.
So it's basically me and my brother Ray, and then comes my next brother Gabriel. We're probably 10 years apart. My sister Evelinda, we're 13. My younger brother Patrick, we're almost 16 years apart. So it's another generation,
Right.
So things were a little bit different from them, But from my side, it was always a struggle.
So your mom, single parent.
Single parent.
Your father?
My father was in and out of our lives. Towards the end, my father was more in our lives. At 16, I was out of the house, Ernie. I was out of the house at 16. My son was born when I was 17 years old. I was already in the workforce.
So let me just interrupt you there just to say, so you're growing up, you went to Jefferson High School,
I went to Jefferson High School.
but you were married
I was married
in high school.
In high school at 16.
And a father.
And a father. So It's so funny because my son turned 30 years old. I gave him a surprise party, and then a friend of mine, Marty Benavides, a good friend of mine since second grade, my son asked, "Hey, Marty, how well do you know my dad?" He goes, "You're well, very well." He goes, "I remember your dad in our junior year. I asked everybody, 'Where's Fabian?' And people were saying, 'He ain't coming back. He ain't coming back. He's in the workforce.'" So that's how it went. That's how it went.
So you did not get a high school diploma?
I did. I did. I promised my mother that I would go back to school. I was working during the day, and I was going to night school. So I did get a high school diploma, and I remember very well. I was at a house in Encino Park, and I was painting.
Right.
And the door was open. We had one of the painters had the music going on, and I remember it saying, "This goes out to the class of 1982." Which is my class.
Your class.
Okay, and the song was "You're Still the One" from Bob Seger. And at that moment, Ernie, I'm like, is this gonna be my life? You know?
Which that song played at your candlelight recently.
It did, and brought back a lot of memories.
That's remarkable. I heard the song at candlelight, but I did not realize the connection
Yes.
to your life and everything.
Yes.
Did you have any sense? You're a husband. You're a teenage father. Did you have any sense of what your life might be like back then? You couldn't have possibly conceived that you would end up where you are today.
No, not at all. Not at all. But let me just tell you this. I put it to you this way. I have a son that's 44 years old. I have a daughter that's 34 years old. Okay. So when my son was born, it's like he was my best friend, like my brother. I mean, I'm not an older guy, man,
Right.
to have a child at 17, and my son is born. So when my daughter's born 10 years later,
Yeah.
it's a little different. It's a little different because you're more mature,
Right.
and those kind of things. But it's been a journey. It's been a journey.
And you did not go to college.
I did not go to college. I was a painter for about 5 years for another with a contractor.
Yeah.
And then I got laid off. I learned a trade very well. I loved it. I had a passion for that.
But you were
for painting.
painting.
I was
Like
painting.
commercial buildings, residential?
No, at that time
What-
it was all residential. The gentleman that I worked for, all he did was residential subdivisions. So I started where the funny story is I started where they would drop off a sleeve of a sandpaper, and it's about 200 sheets, about that
Right.
thick. Okay, and then they would joke around and say, "Here's your high school diploma. Here's your diploma."
Oh my gosh.
And sanding and getting everything ready. But I learned from some good tradesmen,
Right.
very good tradesmen that showed me the trade very well.
But at that time, you're working to earn money to support a wife and a child and a growing family. Did you have, I mean, was it even remotely possible that you were going to turn this into a career?
No, not at all. It didn't turn into a career until a lady that I knew. Her name was Sister Reed. I give her a lot of my credit to her because I got laid off, and when I was the guy that would get to the job site, and I would get the trucks, back them up, go in the back of the shop, and
right.
get them everything ready, right? And then all of a sudden, I'm doing well, working for him, and sure making the money, and I walk in there to get the keys to these trucks, and he tells me, "You don't got a job." And he tells me, "I have nothing for you today." And then I said, okay. I was thinking maybe that home builder had said, "Hey, we have some other trade coming in.
Right.
The schedule's not right, what have you." And I said, "Well, I'll be here tomorrow." He goes, "I have nothing for you tomorrow." And then it just started clicking on me. I said, "Do I have a job?" And he goes, "No, you don't."
Oh my gosh.
So here I am, right? Like, my son is like 6 years old. Okay, my rent's like $165 a month. Living in a little apartment by Jefferson.
Oh my
and
gosh.
trying to figure it out. So Sister Reed comes into this because I was at her house, and Mr. Reed, Peter Reed, was a former Rey Feo.
Right.
So as the story goes, it had to be this way. So she tells me she had asked for them to do some work, and he sent a crew over there, and she sends the crew home. And she says, the contractor says, "Well, what happened?" He goes, "Well, where's Fabian?" She knew me because I worked at that house for probably about 7 months.
Right.
So he calls me like a week later. He called me, hey, I have a job. You want to do it? I said, yeah, absolutely. Here I am without a job, right?
Sure.
So I ended up going to the job, and I ended up going to Sister Reed's house, and she said, you weren't with the crew the other day, last week. I said, no, ma'am. She goes, why were you not with that crew? I said, I didn't have a job. She goes, what do you mean you didn't have a job?
Yeah.
I said, well, he laid me off. She goes, Fabian, she was a blunt lady. Anybody who knew this lady,
Right.
straight out forward tell you, she goes, don't be dumb, because you're good in what you do.
Right.
For me to ask you to come back and ask for you to be here, and she goes, I can help you.
Wow.
She goes, I can't help you financially, but I can help you with a lot of customers. So that story goes that she ended up, I finished the job for her, and I thought, well, maybe I don't get laid off again.
Yeah.
Well, as soon as the job was finished, I was looking for another job. So I went back to her and I told her, and so she got me, one of the projects she got me was at Walter Mathis's house,
Okay.
which is a museum.
Right.
Okay, so I'm having a dinner for the King's dinner, okay, and it's going to be there at Walter Mathis's museum.
Which is, so you're hosting, because typically Rey Feo will host a dinner for the previous kings, and you've chosen this location
for Antonian.
for
King Antonian. I give a dinner
for the Cavaliers. I see.
the Cavaliers.
That's right. Okay.
So that's where it's going to be, and all the former Rey Feos will be there.
No,
Yeah.
I've been to that dinner before, and it's that is a pretty. That's man. I'm getting all the feel. That's like a full circle moment
it's
for
a
you.
full circuit moment, right?
You've had a few of those moments, so haven't you?
I've had many of them. And going through what I've been through, I started with $90 borrowed.
Not $90 in your pocket,
No,
like $90 borrowed.
Borrowed.
You started Fabian's painting, and was it in 1986?
1986, and it went all the way through almost like 1992, 93. And then I knew I had to branch out. I had to start to diversify. I've always had a passion for construction. I didn't want to do residential.
Were you a handy person?
Very much.
And who taught you that?
I just learned it on my own. Going to jobs, seeing people, and then so I ended up, going back to me living on the west side, right? And our summers was not like, our spring breaks were not like, go to the coast or anything like that.
No, you're not at South Padre Island.
No. So our summers were like, painting my grandmother's house.
Absolutely.
And then fast forward, here I am a painter, right?
Right.
So it all works out.
And so at some point, how long after 86 is when the painting business starts? How soon after that did you diversify and ultimately make it construction?
I started diversifying little by little. I started doing just sheetrock work, and I started doing metal studs and things like that. And then I really got going on it probably in 1998.
Right.
98.
Right.
And I had my one job that I'll never forget. It was at Hill Country Bakery. Mm-hmm. It was I got offered a project there. I'd done a little bit of work for them. I got offered a very large project, and it's one of those projects, Ernie, that every contract,
right,
wish they got.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? And knowing that could help you.
Yes.
And it ended up being Hill Country Bakery. They were the suppliers for all the Starbucks.
Oh my gosh.
All the Starbucks. And then so, one of the projects I did was probably 25,000 square feet. I literally almost lived at that project because there was a certain time it had to come out. They flew me to Long Island, New Jersey for this blast freezers to see how they're all set up. Right. I mean, they really helped me, and they knew that I could do this for them. It was Steve O'Donnell and David Nolan. Great people.
I'm not. I don't want to get into your finances and everything, but I must imagine when you see a check or you get a deposit or something of significance, you go back and think about that $90 borrowed. I
Yes.
can only imagine what that must feel like.
Yeah. My son is in construction. My son says that things like that, where you started from and where you're at now. But the thing about Ernie is that you should never forget where you come from. That's our roots.
I agree.
You know, I'm not embarrassed, you know, doing this with Rey Feo. I, 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 I go to schools. We visit about 60,000
Yeah,
students this
yeah,
year, right?
yeah.
And I tell them a struggle of mine. And
Right.
my struggle was reading. Reading. So, and I'm not embarrassed because I tell them I would read slow. I would stutter once in a while. I
Right.
might stutter doing this interview here. You
Ah,
know?
you're doing fine. You're
you
doing
know,
fine so
you
far.
know, I might stutter a little bit with
Right.
it, and so you get laughed at. You know, but there's no reason for you to be embarrassed. Those things should make you stronger.
But how powerful is it for them to see? Because it's one thing to be told this thing, but to see someone like yourself who literally was them in many cases, and what you've been able to do. I mean, it's you can't teach that in a class or read that in a
You
book.
cannot. You know, we have all these students in the gym, right? You know, hope I'm not jumping.
No. Go ahead.
So
go
we
ahead.
have all these students in the gym, and I tell them, I said, I want to show of hands
Right.
who struggles in reading.
Yeah.
You know, and first I didn't use struggle. I said, who doesn't like to read?
Right.
So my media minister, Elaine De Los Santos, a bunch of these hands got up and she goes, wait a minute. The king is asking who doesn't like to read, not who likes to read.
Right.
And Ernie, those hands didn't drop.
Yeah.
They heard it right.
Yeah.
You know, so I tell them my story and I tell him how I went to
Right.
like 7 elementary schools through my life. I mean, we moved around a lot.
Right.
Okay. And then finally I ended up at Jet, but only stayed for 2 years. Right.
Right.
You know, so I see some of these kids when I say that, you know, that it was me that struggled. It was me that sat behind the student and kind of hid behind him.
Right.
So the teacher wouldn't ask me to read, right? They try to call me out
Right.
to read. And when I would read, I would, you know, again, I would read slow. I would stutter a little bit.
Yeah.
And the other kids laugh. So it doesn't take too many of those laughs for you to be embarrassed,
Sure,
right? At
absolutely.
that age. And then you're like, you don't want to do this.
Right.
So I tell the kids what I went through. And just, I remember one school we went to that I told them my story. And I said about the raising the hands. I had a couple kids raise their hand.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when they raise their hands, I tell them, look, y'all are honest by doing that. And honesty would take you a long ways in life. Right? And I
agree.
said, there's that saying that, you know, an honest person is a good person, you know? And then so we start doing that for the kids, you know?
Yeah.
I give them a lanyard that's sponsored through a soda water company with Pepsi.
Right.
And they gave us 60,000 of them.
Right.
So every student is getting one. So I tell them, I give you a gift. I need a gift back. I said, will you give me a gift? And they say,
Yeah.
yes, I will. You know, the kids literally
Yeah.
say that.
Oh, no,
yes,
yeah.
I will, right? Well, you've been there, you know that.
Yeah.
So they say, yes, I will. I said, okay, so this is my gift. Today, you read. And if you can, I want you to stand up and read.
Okay.
It will build your confidence, your
Yeah.
self-esteem. And don't ever be embarrassed of reading slow,
Right.
because you have to learn.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, how great! And again, I've been in those school visits, so I know how powerful that moment can be when you've got hundreds of kids right in the palm of your hand, and they're hanging on every single word that you're saying. Hanging out with Fabian Castillo Senior here, Rey Feo LXXI, as we approach Fiesta 2025 here. We could spend another hour going through all of the moments and everything. I know you've got the poster behind me here, kind of illustrating your Super Bowl party you had back in February. By the way, that is the crown back there, and you have. I think you did something pretty cool.
I did something very cool.
This is Fabian's crown back here, but you created a miniature version.
I did a miniature version because I thought that these kids that are out there would like to feel a royalty themselves. So this crown here, after we finish, we ask anybody want to wear it, or somebody has a birthday, or somebody
nice.
that comes up, right? And we get a line. We get a
sure you
line
do.
of kids. I wish we get about 15 to 20 minutes, as you know, for
Yes,
each school,
yes,
right? And we're
yeah.
doing almost, I think yesterday we hit almost number 90.
Yeah.
So we got about, I think it's 101 left to go.
Right.
You know, so if we had more time, this crown will be used a lot.
Yeah.
So
I love it. I'm always fascinated, and it might be difficult to see. I know you have your crest here, but I'm always fascinated because the crests are obviously very individual and unique to the king, and it's got specific symbolism or little nuggets on there that are very meaningful to you.
So my crown was built this way. I had went up to
Your
Italy.
crest, I should
my
say.
Crest, I'm
I
sorry.
said crown, your crest.
My crest. So what I did is, I did the sign of the cross here.
Uh-huh.
Without God, we couldn't do anything.
Right.
My wife's name is Vicky. My Rotary counselor is
Yes.
there. Put a V there.
I love
Okay.
that.
Fabian's Construction is right here. Okay. I did the Alamo Dome. I did the Lone Star State. And you can barely see 4 stacks here.
Okay.
Those little 4 stacks that are there is the Alamo Dome. Everybody knows
see.
it. You pass by 281 and
Right.
you have the Alamo Dome
Right.
there,
Okay.
right? Okay. We have the books for education.
Right.
And we have the apple for wellness.
Right.
There's a little C in there for Chloe. She's my granddaughter.
Your granddaughter.
Chloe, right? So then when we look up our last name under Castillo,
Mm-hmm.
it's a castle. Okay, so you see the tree behind here, all the leaves on the tree, all the branches stuff
Right.
is our roots of our family, right?
Okay.
Down the bottom, there is all the roots from the family,
Yeah.
right? There's a little C there, it's for my grandson, for Christian.
Oh goodness.
Christian will get married one day.
Right.
Hopefully he has a son. The last name, it goes on, right?
I
It keeps
see.
on going, right? And then with the cabrito, which is one of
The
the
goat.
biggest
Yeah, the goat, right.
honors we can give
Right.
somebody. I'm a Yankee fan. Can you see the
New York
NY?
Yankees.
NY right there.
Oh, there it is, hidden on the very top of the
Yes,
crest.
the NY, right? And then, of course, here's the cabrito.
That's
we
the
have, right?
yeah. That
Cabrito
and so
we
the
have.
cabrito is one of the highest honors you can receive from personally given to you from the king himself, which is super cool. Is your mother still alive?
No, my mother passed away about 23 years ago. She died at 59 years old. My father passed away probably about 17 years ago.
What do you think they would think about all of this right now?
I wish my mother could be here. Of course, and my father, right? But I wish my mother could be here so she could experience this
Yeah.
with me. I was asked before to if I wanted to be Rey Feo.
Mm-hmm.
I did not because I wanted my grandkids to be able to experience this.
Mm-hmm.
Chloe at that time, she was 8, Christian was 9. He was 10, I'm sorry.
Right.
And now Chloe's 10, Christian's 12. Because I'm about a legacy.
Yeah.
I think people should leave legacies. So one day I will not be here. Christian and Chloe will have their kids, hopefully.
Right.
They'll be at the parades. They'll hear about Rey Feo. They see a guy go by in a parade and they'll say, hey, they'll tell their kids, that was my grandfather.
Yeah.
That was your
Yeah.
great grandfather. And we've done a lot of nice things in our court. Everybody does. Every court is amazing because the time that my court has done this, all these years, all these days we put in it, every other court has.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that every Rey Feo has that every court has done is put in the same time.
Yeah. It's a labor of love, though.
labor
But
of
make no mistake, it's a hell of a lot of work.
It is a lot. It is a lot.
And I know a lot of times the court is there to make sure that you don't do a lot of heavy lifting, but you can't help yourself sometimes.
And here I am. I'm a hands-on guy,
Yeah.
So, I don't mind opening
Right.
my door and put it on my sash.
No, no, don't get. You're not supposed to get a drink.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to open the door. People put, get you all dressed up and everything, but I know you can't help yourself sometimes.
So I've had nice things that we've done. You know what I mean?
Sure, of course.
Is like, for instance, today we gave blood at the blood bank.
Yep,
For every person that gives blood, you're saving 3 lives.
for sure.
So I told the lady, she goes, what would you like to do? I said, I wish I could give blood 7 days. I would be saving 21 people today, right? So today our day started with at Holy Cross High School.
Right.
Because my children went to Holy Cross and they graduated from there. They gave me a mass, and it was a very nice mass with the students there and stuff. And then, we end up here, we have another function right after lunch.
Yeah.
It's just a nonstop.
Oh yeah.
Right? So I gave one of the head coaches there at Holy Cross, my wife, she came up with a slogan. Okay, it says Rey Feo,
Yes.
right? And the back says not so fail.
Hey, I like that.
So this is what it has to be, and this is for you, Ernie.
Oh, thank you
All
very
right.
much. I had seen the front,
Uh-huh.
but I had not seen the back. Not so fail. Not so ugly, by the way, in case you're wondering the translation and everything. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Couple more minutes here with Fabian Castillo because he does have a busy schedule and he's got another event in a little while. Is there a particular part of Fiesta, a moment, an event, something that you are really, really looking forward to?
Well, let me tell you, there was let me back up.
Yeah.
There was an event that we did that I was honored to do at the city in here. I love San Antonio, Ernie.
Yes,
mean,
I know
this
you
is-
do.
This is our city, right?
Yes.
This is our city. So we've done, for raising money, we've done a lot of events.
Yeah.
Very nice. And if anybody wants to look at them, they can go to Rey
Sure.
Feo 76 and
Yes.
go to recaps, right? But one of the things that I really liked that we did is we had a Super Bowl watch party at the Alamo Dome. It's never been done
before.
Never been done. A watch party. We've never had Super Bowl here, right?
Right.
You know, either, right?
Right, of course.
Yeah. So we ended up having about 750 people there on the turf. Bob Lilly was there. We had a great sponsor. It was Gamas Law.
Sure, yeah.
Gamas Law
Of
Cares.
course.
And this poster back here was made for me from Marty Liao. He's
Very talented local artist,
man.
yes.
Very talented man. So those are the nice things. And then we went to Washington's birthday.
In Laredo.
In Laredo. It was cold. And we get to go to the bridge. We get clearance at the bridge. And so when we get clearance, we walk up to it, but we're not in reenacting it. We're not involved in it.
They call it the Abrazo, and in Laredo, a lot of people don't realize they celebrate Washington's birthday, the president's weekend, probably like nobody else in the country.
Nobody else. So me and my wife are standing. All my
Right.
court was there. A lady comes up to me. She says, we had two people that were not able to show up
Right.
because it was cold. It was raining.
Yes.
She goes, would you like to be in the reenacting of the Abrazos?
Right.
And I said, absolutely. They gave us some flags, American flags. Okay.
Right.
And then so we come to the middle of the border.
Right.
Right, come to the middle of the border, the bridge, and we exchange abrazos.
Right.
You know, hug each
Literally
other.
hug each other.
Hug each other. We hand them the American flag, and they hand us the Mexican flag. So I just thought that those are just nice things that we
Yes.
did. We came out on the Washington Post
Yeah, I saw
doing
that.
this, doing this. And so all of those things are memorable things, not
Right.
only for me, but for my court.
You'll remember this for the rest of your life.
I will. I remember his rest of life. When Mr. Gabriel came and told me,
Johnny Gabriel, yes.
Johnny Gabriel told me, Fabian, like you to be Rey Feo.
Yeah.
And, he told me, you will be the only one in the city of San Antonio. It never really hit me. It just started hitting me a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
That, yes, here we go. Here we go. We're going to go through Fiesta, and I'll be the only Rey Feo. But
It's
I am
remarkable.
honored. I am super honored to be behind the former Rey Feos.
Right.
Right? That they have set the path for us, because it's been a long struggle. Now we're giving up to $11 million in scholarships.
It's amazing. It
It's
really
amazing.
is remarkable. And it's an exclusive club. I think Johnny Gabriel was Rey Feo twice, and maybe there was a year or two where they didn't have Rey Feo. But it goes back, 76 years now, and you are for life in this exclusive club.
Yes.
And I know once you're done with Fiesta, your work will continue, and you'll support the next king and subsequent kings after that. But I've been impressed, super impressed by what you've done. I know it's such a crazy time for you, being a couple of weeks out from Fiesta, and I'm just honored that you would take some time to join me this morning and spread your message of education and I think perseverance, if nothing else.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
There
So
is-
Ernie,
yes?
before you can't stop yet.
Oh no!
okay?
Wait,
You can't
yes.
stop yet.
Wait a minute.
So this is one of the biggest honors
my
that we
gosh.
can get.
Oh,
Our
you're
cabrito.
Fabian.
Okay, our cabrito. I gave 3 cabritos out at Final Four. I gave to Auburn. I gave it to Duke.
Right.
I gave him a cabrito, and I told him, for what you're bringing to our community, thank you. And I gave him a cap, and it came out in their Instagram, for Duke's Instagram.
man.
I gave one to Auburn.
To Bruce Pearl, I saw that. The
Yes,
head coach.
I gave one to Auburn, and it came out on his Instagram, our cap and all.
Yeah.
The gentleman from Florida State.
Oh, Florida Gators.
Florida
Yeah,
Gators.
yeah.
He's walking up to his hotel. He's wearing that cap.
Right.
Rey Feo. So Ernie, I want to give this
Oh,
to
my
you
gosh.
for what you do for the community, Ernie. You have been amazing.
Thank you.
Anybody ever ask anything for you to do, Ernie? I've never heard anybody say that you've said no. And I'm honored to give this to you, Ernie.
No, I don't. Oh,
I am honored, man. I am honored.
I kind of feel unworthy, but I know
No.
this is a tremendous honor, Fabian. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And I clearly had no idea he was going to do this. This is beautiful, and I will wear this with pride during Fiesta. I'm not speechless very often, but you managed to do it, brother.
Yeah, good.
There he is, Fabian Castillo, Rey Feo 76. I don't know what to say, but thank you. Congratulations. I've told you this privately, and I'll say it publicly. You have run just an amazing campaign,
Thank you.
put on some great events, and impacted untold numbers of young people in our community. And that's a legacy that will last long after you're gone. So congratulations.
Thank you very much.
All right, of course, Fiesta comes up April 24th. Rey Feo, the number 76.org is the website. Rey Feo 76, a very comprehensive website if you want to see everything that Fabian and his amazing court have done. Congratulations.
Thank you
All the
very
best
much.
to you. I'll see you during Fiesta.
Viva!
Viva! There he is, Fabian Castillo Sr., Rey Feo 76. Whew, I tell you what, this is pretty cool. There's another episode of Pickup Lines, the talk show in a car. I'm Ernie Zuniga. Until next time, we'll see you. Bye for now.